Tragedy struck Mumbai harbour as an Indian Navy craft collided yesterday with the civilian ferry Neel Kamal. There were heartfelt condolences today from Admiral Dinesh Tripathi, the Navy chief, and the Navy for the loss of 13 lives. 13 people were killed in all, including people on board that the rigid-hulled boat, the Navy boat, which lost control. Rescue operations continue with 8 Navy craft, a helicopter, a Coast Guard vessel, searching for 2 people who are still missing. Efforts have spanned the night. A board of inquiry is underway to determine the facts. This incident has sparked widespread outrage.
Tragedy last evening as this boat with 111 was hit by a Navy speedboat, killing 13 people near Mumbai.
मुंबई के कुलाबा पुलिस स्टेशन में कल देर रात हमने ये ऑफेंस रजिस्टर किया है, जिसमें नील कमल पैसेंजर बोट गेटवे ऑफ इंडिया से 3:15 बजे दोपहर के एलिफेंटा केव्स के लिए निकली थी। पैसेंजर बोट को डैश हुआ, जिसके इस दुर्घटना के तहत 13 लोगों की अभी तक जो मृत्यु है वो हो चुकी है।
Among the deceased was Deepchand Wagchore, a plumber from Mumbai's Govandi area. When his daughter Tanvi didn't see him by evening, she approached the police, only to discover her father had died in the accident.
कुछ नहीं, छोटा मोटा ऐसा मतलब क्या बोलते हैं, प्लम्बिंग नहीं तो फिर स्टेट एजेंट ऐसा करते थे।
घर में कमाने वाले कोई और थे?
सिर्फ पापा ही थे। उन लोगों ने जो जिनकी डेथ हुए उन सब के लिए ऐसा गवर्नमेंट जॉब ऐसा कुछ तो करना चाहिए।
The boat tragedy has shattered many families, including that of Rakesh Nana Aher from Nashik's Pimpal Gaon. 2 days before the accident, Aher had travelled to Mumbai with his wife and son for treatment. They went out on a joyride in the evening, but the collision claimed all 3 lives. Some lucky survivors giving a harrowing account.
गेट ऑफ इंडियावरून तिकीट घेतली. आम्ही 8 जण होतो आमची फॅमिलीमधले. तर आम्ही 3 वाजता बसलेलो, तर 40-50 मिनिट आम्ही बोटीमध्येच होतो. त्यानंतर मग एक व्हाईट कलरची बोट आली आणि ती खूप फास्ट आलेली आणि आमच्या बोटीला जाऊन भिडली. भिडल्यानंतर आम्हाला धक्का बसला, तर आम्ही पडलो तिथल्या तिथेच बोटमध्ये. आम्हाला असं वाटलं नॉर्मल आहे आणि मग आम्ही बघितलं तर त्या बोटीमधले लोक आहे ना, एक आमच्या बोटवर पडलेला, तो 90% गेलेलाच होता आणि एक तिथेच लटकला त्या बोटला, जे त्या बोटमधला 90% तो पण गेला. आणि आम्ही थोड्या वेळ आमची बोट छान म्हणजे चांगली चालत होती. 5 मिनिट झाले मग आम्हाला ओरडायला लागली की यार जे जॅकेट पहनो. मग तशी थोड्या वेळाने बोट अशी अर्धी बुडत अशी आडवी पडली.
The tragic accident has raised several critical questions. If the ferry's capacity was 90, why were 111 allowed on board? Why was the Navy's speedboat being tested in such a congested area? Was the speedboat driver attempting stunts? The administration has ordered a probe and announced compensation for the victims. So far, the Colaba police have recorded statements of 9 people. The tragic boat accident near Gateway of India, which claimed 13 lives, has raised serious questions. Was the collision due to technical failure or human error? Were proper safety measures in place on the ferry? The police are now investigating these unanswered questions. But the lives of those perished will never return. With Paras Dama in Mumbai, Bureau Report, NDTV.
Joining us now, Captain Alok Bansal, Director of the India Foundation, and Tara Deshpande. I'd like to thank you both very much for being with us. Captain Bansal, just in terms of your preliminary observations, what could have resulted in that RHIB, that rigid-hulled inflatable boat of the Navy, speeding in the manner that it did, and apparently with no control? I mean, what could have gone wrong?
See, what I have heard is that this particular boat's engine got jammed at max speed. That's called full ahead. And then it got, because the OEM, actually the trial team was on board, and it got jammed. And I think at that speed, the whoever was in control could not control the boat because that was at the max speed, and probably they didn't have that sort of a reaction time, which actually resulted in this sort of a clash.
They couldn't have switched off the engine?
No, it's not possible to do it immediately. It's not feasible. It's actually an outboard motor which is actually moving. Though, of course, with passage of time, they could have done something, but probably immediately when it gets stuck, I think probably they didn't have that sort of a reaction time.
Tara, the other aspect of it is that there were 111 on board when only 90 should have been there in the first place. So this is another failure. You know, I mean, public safety is secondary. How could so many more people be allowed on board in the first place?
You know, public safety is pretty much non-existent in this country. We've seen so many tragic events of this nature take place in the last 6 or 7 months alone, whether it's the hoarding in Ghatkopar that fell down or whether it's this incident. This incident, from everything we've seen, appears to be a regrettable accident. And, you know, my condolences to the families of those who've passed away. It is indeed a regrettable situation. However, I think because it's the Indian Navy, they have undertaken intensive searches very efficiently and expediently. They've taken all those who were injured to hospitals immediately. I think, you know, they are fully involved with taking control of this regrettable incident. I think a full investigation certainly is required before we come to any conclusions as to exactly what happened. But I do think that there should have been more life jackets on board. What processes did this ferry company have in place for an emergency situation? Did they have people on board, lifeguards on board? Did they have, maps on board to, did they have a, like when you get on a plane, you're told what to do if there is an emergency. Was such an exercise undertaken on the ferry? I know I take the ferry often from Mumbai to Alibag, and I know that nothing like this is ever explained to anybody. So now when I think about it, if there is such an emergency, I really wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah. Captain Bansal, another common question being asked, if there were to be high-speed trials taking place, shouldn't it have been done in, far away from the coastline, perhaps in open sea, or was this already in your understanding far away, far away?
I'm not completely privy to the information, but the trials should obviously have taken place far away, but it was a small boat, may not have had that sort of an endurance. And in any case, it was far away from Bombay. It was actually closer to Karanja Island, where it was. And it was not a trial actually, it is actually an engine which got jammed at max speed. It was not a high-speed trial which they were probably doing. That's what I have been given to understand. And in fact, the matter is being investigated by the Navy. The Chief of the Navy, who has just arrived from Indonesia, is actually flying to Mumbai tomorrow morning, as I understand, to go and take charge. I think consequent to the accident, Navy has acted extremely well, and it's undoubtedly an extremely regrettable incident, and my heartfelt condolences to those bereaved and their families. But yes, there are certain
Captain Bansal,
issues as far as safety
I know these are unrelated
and,
issues, but what we've seen, unfortunately, with the Navy in the last couple of months has been sad. You know, we've had a frigate which has had a serious accident while it was going through maintenance or overhaul. It virtually sank. It had to be righted. Now we've had this incident as well, which has taken place. We've seen incidents of unmanned aerial vehicles being lost by the Navy, all unrelated, but these have been pretty challenging times, right?
See, as far as unmanned aerial vehicles being lost, I think that's an operational issue which would probably happen. I think a frigate falling in the dockyard is regrettable and not excusable. In fact, some heads must roll, because that's, of course, something which is attributable to someone. And this particular case, from prima facie, from what I know, is actually an extremely regrettable accident which happened. I think, I'm not too sure what happened. What I have gathered prima facie from the open media is that the engine got locked at the max speed. And I think the person in charge probably had no reaction time or could not react in time. Unfortunately, there is also one issue which probably needs to be flagged, that Mumbai harbor is becoming extremely crowded. A harbor which is actually housing two major ports, that is Mumbai port and Jawaharlal Nehru port. There are thousands of boats. There are two fishing harbors inside that harbor. There are ferries crisscrossing, and there is no management. There is no traffic management for these vessels. From where should they cross? They are crossing the main shipping channel to and fro. There is no control whatsoever. I think a time has come, because all big ships are controlled by Mumbai Port Trust, but small boats are not being controlled. There are yachts, there are all sorts of vessels which are actually floating around in Mumbai Harbor. I think there is a time that we need to have some sort of a control for all these smaller craft, from where they can cross the main channels, how there should be somebody who's controlling the movement of these craft. As of now, everybody moves. There are no seaworthiness certificates who are being given, I think, left, right, and center. And as you saw in this particular case, 90 people's capacity, 111. By law, all of them should have been wearing life jackets. Not that keeping life jackets, they should have been wearing life jackets. That's the rule, which is supposed to be when you are actually in boats. And this would not have happened if actually everybody was wearing a life jacket. People would have gone into the water and floated.
Yeah.
So a lot of lives could have been saved if all safety measures had been taken.
Tara, any last thoughts as we wrap this up?
I'm sorry, Vishnu, I think I've lost you.
Any last thoughts as we start to wrap this up?
You're not, your
All
sound
right,
isn't
we seem to
reaching
be
me.
losing that line with Tara, but it is very sad what has taken place. We'll leave it at that.